Hi, I'm Tom.
Hello, I'm Mark. Welcome to the It's Not a Podcast Yet podcast, but it's a pre-podcast to the podcast where we find a name for a podcast in a car. So the CarCast of the podcast. There's the pre-podcast to the podcast where we find a name for the podcast.
Yeah. So, what do we call this?
Well, at this moment, we're calling it the CarCast.
Right,
There's the pre-podcast to the podcast where we find a name for the podcast.
That's true.
And that's the first of our questions. What do we call this thing?
Yeah, so, I mean, we come up with all these stupid questions.
Yes, very stupid questions.
And we answer them.
No. What we have is wild speculation and exposition.
Right, we
and
failed
then we
to
normally Google the answer or ask somebody smarter than us.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd put them into a podcast just for you.
Yeah, so,
keep watching. This is the first one. We're a little bit weird about it.
yeah.
And I'm driving, so we're on the M62. We're headed towards York. Right now we're coming up towards Leeds, and I'm in a traffic controlled area of the M62. So I have to obey the speed limits.
So he's a bit distracted.
Only ever so slightly. The car does have cruise control and a tiny little robot driver as well.
Yeah. So I think we'll come back to that question and actually go straight on to... Would you trust a chatbot therapist?
My immediate response is no.
After seeing a few chatbots, yeah, they're kind of dumb. I mean, well, think about the Microsoft one that went past on Twitter, where I think they managed to take it from being basically generally a child to a Nazi in, I think, 5 messages.
Well,
it didn't take
long. Possibly longer than that, but yeah, they've taken long to troll it into becoming extremely right-wing.
Yeah. So, I mean, can you get a chatbot to chat to you? Yes. Can you get it to say something sensible? Probably not. Okay,
so let's expound on that further. Exactly how they're going to do it. They're going to have to restrict exactly how much you can influence its conversation.
Yeah.
That's for certain. So they're going to probably use anonymized therapy sessions where they get it to answer within, controlled parameters. So it's not saying something completely off the wall. So if you say, I want to die and there's no point in living, and you prove it to the chatbot, at which point it says, well, there you go, have a gun.
Yeah,
do it quickly, don't make a mess.
We don't want a suicide booth, right? Okay. Yeah.
So there's going to be some restrictions on its parameters. That may cause a complication because that's not really then a fully natural response. However, it does give it a controlled environment. The other thing is, does it have access to some greater level of understanding? So will it use the cameras, say, to get a greater level response of your automatic responses? So your eye movements, your hand movements, your facial expressions, because all of those can be important in a conversation.
Yeah, see, I mean, I automatically assumed chatbot text-based. So
yeah, me too, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting those things, you're not getting all those supplementary areas of language. And we know that written language or spoken language itself is very little of communication. It's only a small part of communication. All the rest is gained from all these other features.
Yeah, so having it so it can actually see and understand what you're doing, so gestures and the fact that you're crying or something like that.
So what exactly is the chatbot going to be solving here? So maybe it's just going to be a communication bot where it's actually all it's doing is providing, say, emotional support.
Yeah.
I feel bad. Why do you feel bad? Oh, my husband's been screwing around with 20 other women. Well, that's a terrible thing. Tell me about it. That kind of response. Maybe it's just getting you to start talking.
So a therapist that just listens. That's.
So essentially, is that therapy or is that counselling? Is counselling therapy? That's probably a different question.
Yeah.
My worry here is does it replace somebody who would be doing the job better? As in, would a human being do a better job, probably in person?
Or at least, either in person or online.
Does it lead to you actually being assessed in a better way? Is it a prelude to actually seeking better help? Or is it just a really, really quick way for another company to make money without actually employing too much of people for any long-term period of time?
Yeah.
I'm suspecting that it's going to be the latter. But the only actual end point of this is that you get to replace a set of services that are normally at this point done by human beings.
Yeah.
So that you can cut down on waiting lists. So we know that there's a huge amount of waiting lists for the counselling service. We know there's a lot of people seeking therapy or needing therapy. And so we have a massive issue. One of the ways of solving that issue is by automatic functions. Essentially to weed out, to, I don't know, narrow down the number of people and to classify them. Now that might be helpful if it was, say, run by the NHS. But is it going to be helpful if it's run by a private company?
Yeah, and what's their bottom line on that? Is it a we are helping people, or is it going to be a we're looking for money?
Yeah, I think they'll say that they're helping people, but it's kind of the kind of help that GlaxoSmithKline give. It's one that comes with a healthy percentage and the shareholders who are smiling.
Yes.
So would I talk to a robot chatbot therapist? I'm still going with no right now because it's now even more unethical.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I'd probably talk to it to troll it. I might talk to it just to see what happens if I tell it something really stupid. But I don't think I'd actually use it myself.
I think I might be a psychopath. Can you help?
Yes.
Every now and again, I kill babies. Is this a problem?
Yeah, I can see this going horribly wrong very quickly because, you know, a real person will get these things and they just look at them and go, get out.
Well,
Just
yeah,
leave.
or laugh.
Or like, yeah.
Or say, how long have you had these delusions?
Yeah, depending on...
But then again, so might the chatbot therapist.
That's
if it's got
true.
enough level of understanding. Again, we don't really know exactly what sort of questions it's going to ask. Is there going to be a serious questionnaire beforehand so that it can profile you up in advance?
And also, is this going to be pre-trained with bits and pieces? So I'm assuming it's going to be an AI machine learning style thing. Is it going to be pre-trained with a load of automatic responses and actual conversations from a therapist?
Well, it's
know which
gonna
side
have
was
to.
which. Well, yeah, obviously.
It's going to have some level of understanding, one would think, for it to have any level of value. And I wonder whether or not, I mean, I guess you're going to have to tell people that they are talking to an automated system.
Yeah.
You can't pretend in any way that you're not talking to an automated system.
No, and it'd be
Apart from a breach of confidence, it would be a breach of upcoming change to the data rules.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a thing of, would you rather talk to a simple question bot before you go talk to an actual therapist? It can ask you the very basic questions, and you can just either type out or talk at it, and then the therapist can overview that. An actual therapist can overview this later and come back to you with more. So instead of them having to sit, like obviously you said earlier that there was a limit to the number of therapists, to the number of people that could do with therapy, having something that would sort of be almost a recording service beforehand that would ask a couple of prodding questions, maybe just basic questions, that then it records the answers to. The therapist can review them and help more people.
We're running to the point of, if this service is provided by, say, via the NHS or via the counselling service, where it's strictly controlled and has a very specific, narrow purpose, such as working out which people need which level of help in which level of immediacy, is sort of. I don't want to use the word profiling because it's not really profiling. What it's really doing is categorising, which is, I guess, a sort of polite way of saying profiling in some way, but you're not really profiling because you're not actually saying that what they've got. You're merely trying to level distinctions of how you sort out your job cues.
Yeah.
That might be a good thing, especially if you've got specialists. If you've got a specialist who's, say, good with schizophrenia, and you talk to somebody and they don't know what's wrong with them, they know they've got some mental issues they're first approaching, and they use a chatbot, and it quickly is able to discern that they may have issues towards that level, then getting them to the right therapist in a very short period of time, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
However, my understanding of the current situation is that we have a very, very dedicated service that's already completely beleaguered and overworked. There's already not enough resources and not enough money. So would it not be better to spend any resources, investment or money in actually training up some more therapists and having more money in the system for the humans who are able to do a better job.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel that therapy done by text isn't really therapy at all. It's not really going to give very much because you're not going to get very much information. What we know from language itself is that you don't actually confer that much from written language anyway. It's a fairly bad way of communicating in terms of understanding a person because you're already putting it into a structure where somebody else can read it. So you're already being quite... I
You're
think
missing emotion.
you're missing a lot of emotion. You're already trying to be quite formal. You're already taking out some of the ways that you feel personally, and then you're missing all of those other elements of language. So the hand gestures, the facial gestures, the tone, the pitch, the rhythm, and the frequency of words, how they repeat themselves, any evasion they might give. You gain no emotion feedback at all.
So that would actually rule out almost entirely a text-based system. It would have to be
For
a
any
video-based
levels
system.
of therapy, I would say it rules out a text-based
It would
system.
have to be at least audio, if not video as well.
I would say audio has to be. It should be video.
Yeah.
It's not just audio. It's got to be video. You've got to have, and the best is going to be a face-to-face. So the actual best form of therapy is going to be another person.
Yeah.
I think any system that can't have that is already in crisis point. As for whether or not an automatic system can provide better, well, if it was a video-based system and it had sensors, they could record things like the rhythm and the pitch and the frequency, so they could record hand movements, and we had a certain level, and we do have a certain understanding of what certain clues are given by these sort of movements. A great deal of assessment can be done to help a therapist by recording somebody talking.
Yeah.
But I don't see a great deal of help being done by a chatbot.
No.
All I see for the chatbot is it might help you in your agony aunt status.
Yeah. Yeah.
My husband's a serial philanderer, what should I do? Leave him. You know.
Yeah, the relatively simple, yes, do this. Yeah. Of course, then that's...
And don't forget to sew the sardines in the top of the curtains before you leave.
Yes, yeah. The good old leaving a prank fish somewhere.
Now we're doing all this without actually reading the news article that led into this, so this is all wild speculation, as I think I mentioned in the start.
Yeah.
And it's fairly good speculation.
Yeah, so if this turns out to be the entire article, then well done. It was on the BBC Tomorrow's World section, so go read the actual article.
We'll probably
link
drop a
it
link somewhere around
I think
edges
it's
of the screen.
it's on one of the corners
Yeah.
and in the description. So, going straight on from therapy,
Yay!
how many selfies a day makes me a psychopath?
One. So that's me, a psychopath. Excellent.
Excellent. Well, we're currently doing, 30 frames a second psychopathy?
Psychopathy. I like it. It's like a rubopathy. A radiopathy.
It's radiopathy and psychopathy. What?
Psychopathy should definitely be an area
It's
of medical.
a measurement system.
That's to the psychopathy department. So, well, this has already descended into some level of psychosis, so we've already started there really quite well. Let's have a dictionary definition of the word psychotic. I clearly am not going to Google this while I'm driving, but Tom, your job.
I actually have it in front of me. So the Google translation, the Google definition is a person suffering from chronic mental disorder with abnormal or violent social behaviour. Synonyms of madman, madwoman, mad person, deranged person, maniac, lunatic, psychotic, sociopath.
No, that's the way I would have gone. A psychopath often isn't aware that they're a psychopath. In fact, very few of them are. You're not really self-aware that much of the psychopath. I think perhaps we should look up instead neurosis, and whether we're actually talking about neurotic behaviour.
Yeah, neurosis. Okay. A relatively mild mental illness that is not caused by organic disease, involving symptoms of stress, depression, anxiety, obsessive behaviour, or hypochondria, but not a radical loss of touch with reality.
So I would say actually that what we're actually talking about here is not being a psychopath, which is just, it's become a common word to say to people that you're a psychopath, you're psychotic. It's even used in a song by a recent band, and quite a lot of people who work in the mental health sector will tell you it's a really bad way to actually describe somebody or to use. It's not a phrase we should cheapen.
No.
It's intensely problematical for the people who suffer from psychotic tendencies, and we really shouldn't cheapen or diminish it. So let's actually put it where it is. How many selfies makes you neurotic is a better way of putting this argument, because we are in fact discussing neuroses.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I've taken.
I'm going to go back to one.
I think I have maybe 10 selfies in total.
Okay, I have quite a few more now. I normally take selfies when I'm with my kids.
Yeah.
So there is a sort of level here that it's pictures with the children, it's pictures for family.
Yeah.
But I guess with the sort of selfies we're talking about are the Instagram level selfies, the people who post a lot of images to themselves to Instagram.
Yeah.
Typically identified, I guess, by either health conscious people. There are a lot of one gender more than another gender, I have to say.
Yeah.
But let's not say that that's only the case. There's certainly a lot of people who like taking selfies and putting them on Instagram.
Yeah, and I have to say I've seen, obviously yes, there is a bit more of a lean to one side than the other, but there are people on both sides. No, let's ignore that.
On every side.
There we go. There's people on every side of the gender circle.
I've got to apologise for some of the road noise back then. This is the M1, so we're on the M1 railway at the moment.
It's basically concrete instead of tarmac.
But we're back now to a very low-level background wind and road noise. So yeah, it's people of whatever gender, whatever spectrum of society tend to post selfies of themselves. Quite a lot of them appear on things like Instagram. You also have the phenomenon that is Snapchat, which is your Instagram with video, basically. Except Instagram now has video.
Yeah, because who copied who? The one thing with that is it's definitely. Are people that do selfies more self-obsessed? And is that a neuroses? Which it is. I think.
Because what you've got here is you're going towards OCD behaviour, where the behaviour itself has to be done, otherwise you feel something bad.
Yeah.
So is it the fact that when people get addicted to taking selfies of themselves, I think you can get addicted to taking selfies of yourself.
Yeah.
You can certainly get addicted to taking photos of things. I'm pretty much addicted to taking photos of food of my kids. So taking selfies of yourself, posting a photo every day. Some people like to do this to see the change in themselves. Yeah. Sometimes it's good as an artistic experiment, but other people like to do it just because it makes them feel good to see themselves each day.
So are we changing, looking at more definition of what is a selfie as?
That is a good distinction to make. What makes a selfie a selfie? Is it a pointless thing?
Is it something where it's just the subject is them, or is it something like you see a lot of in various landmarks in the world, where people are turning their camera around and pointing at themselves so they can see they are at the event. Now, is that counted as a selfie in this, or is that more of a I couldn't find someone else to hold the camera, or
indeed, and also not only that, you don't want to give your expensive phone to some random person in another country. Yeah. It used to be that you could do that with your camera, but these days we all have expensive phones, and they're far more expensive than a cheap camera.
Yeah, cheap disposable camera was I think they're still like £5.
Indeed, they're £5, but your cell phone might cost you £1,000.
Yeah, you don't. You wouldn't hand that to a randomer, not so willingly.
So yeah, you don't see professional photographers handing their expensive cameras, and you don't hand your expensive cell phone. Not only that, there's that ease and convenience now of doing everything yourself. You can do all your editing on your camera phone, you can do all your picture taking, all your galleries on your camera phone, it's connected to the internet.
You can take video on your camera phone.
So what classifies a selfie? I would say that it has no other value than just that it's a selfie.
Yeah. So it's not at a location. It's a location.
So you take photographs of locations as aid memoirs. Placing yourself in that photograph, I would say, makes it pointless, because that's just I am here. Well, if you've got a photograph of the place that you took, you know you were there.
Yeah.
You don't need to see your own grinning mug in front of the Statue of Liberty to know it's the Statue of Liberty.
That is true.
Not only that, your cheap cell phone camera is now going to focus more on you than on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, so
I mean, good cameras will focus on both, but it's still going to put you more in the frame or do a double focus.
Yeah.
Which is basically a way of saying half focus on both.
Yeah, so it cheapens the photo. And yeah. So again, that's putting yourself in the picture. So we're back to a selfie is basically.
I would say the selfie is where you're actually, instead of taking a photo of something important, you take a photo of something you want to remember and you put yourself in it as well.
Yeah.
That's your selfie.
Okay, so what about the pictures where people? Well, that's one selfie, and the other selfies is where they just turn the camera around to themselves and say, "Look at me!" It's
yeah. So the other one is the look at me. Now let's talk about the more important ones that maybe we should put as selfies. So you started to say to lose weight, and a good way, one of the ways to say is a good way to lose weight is to take a photograph of yourself along your path of losing weight, so you can actually see the differences. Now, I never did that when I lost weight recently, but I now can see the difference, and I've got a couple of photos, and I'm like, wow, I wish I'd have actually took photos every week, because that would be a really interesting thing to see, and I think it might have been very encouraging. So I certainly see how it would be encouraging to others to see their weight loss, to be encouraged by it, to actually help them to carry on with their weight loss goals.
Yeah.
So that's a good way of a selfie.
Well, I mean, the other thing...
If you're actually, say, a person who does a lot of yoga, you want to take pictures of your yoga positions to show to others, that's a good use of a selfie, isn't it?
Yeah, that is actually still definitely defined as a selfie, but it's more of a... It's a not documentation. It is basically a documentation of the thing, so you can use it.
There's our word, documentation.
Yeah.
Are you documenting something?
Yeah.
So we're going to say it's not a selfie if you're documenting something.
Yeah.
So, and that documenting thing can be you're documenting your travels. If you're a travel writer and you want to put yourself in all the pictures of places you've been so you can talk about them and have both, I think that might be actually acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I can see sometimes where...
Photojournalists, perhaps, though, they generally tend to take photos of the places they go to, not of themselves.
Yeah, so I can see useful selfies of that sort of thing being when you're pointing out something very specific that might not be as obvious in a normal picture without taking everything out of context. Blah.
So I think we've sort of run ourselves into the ground with that one.
Yeah, a little bit.
We've defined what a selfie is. So it's not something that's used for documentation.
Yeah.
So how many of those make us neurotic? Again, I'm going to go with one. If you feel this need to put yourself into an image for no reason whatsoever, no value, no documentation, I'm doing it because I want to document my kids, but I still think I'm a bit neurotic about it. Yeah. I'm going to admit this, I am neurotic about it. I think if you do this thing where you need to see yourself in images, where you're not actually adding anything to the image except your own looming face in the foreground, that's a bit neurotic, isn't it?
Actually then I'd move the definition from being a number then, because to being more of a, if you look at it and go, why did I do that, then that's the too many point. The too many point is when you look at it and go, why?
Yeah.
Why did I put myself in this image?
Yeah. And not only that, am I ever going to look at this again aside from the one time I posted to Instagram?
Yeah.
If you can't look at your images again, then why did you take those images?
Yeah.
I think we all do this. We all take lots and lots of images. How many of us go back and delete the ones? Now, I know I delete quite a few, but also with the vast store of the cloud that is Google now, I also keep quite a lot.
Yeah, I've got to say I don't delete very many photos at all.
I still do.
I don't take very many as often, I find.
Well, that's probably quite a shame. Maybe what you need is a neurosis.
There we go.
Take a lot of selfies. I think we've run to the end of those two questions. Let's go back to what should we call this? At the moment, we're still calling it Carcast, and maybe a podcast, and some other words I said at the start that I can't quite remember now. Podcast of the pre-podcast of the podcast. Something silly.
Yeah. Now,
it's random chat.
It is random.
It's random speculation. It's random discussion. It is chewing the fat or talking shit.
And now I've got to bleep that out.
So chewing the shit. or talking fat. Yeah, but neither of those.
No.
Chewing the shit is not going to go down well as a YouTube channel.
No. Really.
Hi there, welcome to Chewing the Shit. Today we'll be chewing some dog shit.
Oh yeah, tasty.
Tasty. You don't see white dog shit very much anymore.
No. What? Okay.
Only white dog shit you see these days. Man United in an away strip. Oh, that's going to get me some hate mail.
Yeah.
Leeds United. I don't know. I don't even know what colours these teams wear. Is it black for Man United when they're away?
I thought it was red. I thought it was red for home, and it might be white. Actually, I can't remember.
I have no real idea. I just chose a team that I've heard of.
If you can't tell, I don't sport.
We've passed Manchester and Leeds. It could be Yorktown.
Yeah.
Let's name 3 places we're going to today.
Let's insult everybody.
Okay, well, there's Oldham Athletic. There's Liverpool. There's Everton. There's Wimbledon. There's Tottenham Hotspur. There's Crystal Palace. There's Chelsea. I'm just naming random places I think that are sports teams now. Bolton.
Have you played the local sports ball?
We still haven't come up with a name,
No.
though I possibly will receive hate mail from anybody who watches those teams.
Here's a name. Questionable Ramblings.
Questionable Ramblings. It's got an air of pretentiousness.
Sounds good.
I like the word ramblings. No, questionable ramblings sounds like I've just gone wandering in places I really shouldn't.
What, like dog shit?
Like the white dog shit. It really do, it's so, I don't know. It's like walks I should never do with my mother.
Rambling questions.
I think we've gone the wrong way. You know. And okay, so we still haven't come up with a name. So start the next podcast, we come up with a name. For now, it's Questionable Ramblings. We may have a name by the start of the next podcast. Thanks very much for listening, and bye from Mark.
Bye from Tom. And see you next time.